Hey guys, Phil/Polygon here. Welcome to episode 11 of the channel. Still more Dark Souls, and I'm currently bombing around with my strength build in the Ganker's Forest. Not ganking, just playing the role of the lone host. And, that forest is a crazy place, man. How about that forest? It has a reputation, I guess, for a certain style of play, well earned, and I don't come here that often because I'm not really a fan of that style of play. But after the time that I spent here, I have been thinking a lot about backstabs. Coincidence, I'm sure, but backstabs in terms of just a broken mechanic in PvP. Nothing new there. Also some cool stuff I've been hearing from Dark Souls 2 about potential backstab fixes, and then mostly just kind of a motivation or what turns a player into such a one-trick pony. I think it's the game itself. You can't just BS your way through life, though. You know what? Actually, by the look of it, you can. And in fact, Dark Souls teaches you can absolutely BS your way through life. Here we go. Okay, and ho, did you see what I did there? Where BS could have been backstab or bullshit? I will drop it. So as a mechanic, I think it's universally accepted, or at least generally accepted, largely accepted, that backstabs are just broken in this game. With the lag, who hasn't been vacuum backstabbed from 5 paces away? Or a personal favorite where some dude is staring you in the face and somehow you get backstabbed. This guy just warp stabbed me with a Hornet Zweihander, but I think I'm able to fight back from this. We'll see. But I mean, generally, they're just broken with the lag. From what I understand, the PC is the best of it. I'm playing on the PC, and I guess it has the least amount of lag when compared to the Xbox and the PS3. If that is the case, and this is the best of it, I do not envy you console guys. I think in terms of that, in terms of the mechanics, in terms of the reality of the situation, that's pretty much all I have to say. Because I mean, if nothing else, it is a universally even system. It could be laggy, it could be broken, it could be exploitive or abused very easily, but it's there for everybody. And so I think it comes down to a player choice in terms of how do you want to play. Do you want to take advantage of these this broken mechanic or not? It falls into sort of the ethics and the etiquette and morality questions. So that's not that big a deal. But the thing of it is, it makes me a little bit long for the days of Demon's Souls PvP. As ridiculous as that sounds to anybody that ever played that game or did PvP on any level in that game, you will probably remember that the backstabs looked horrible. It was ugly, and you would get backstabbed from clear across the screen, and hilariously go through the entire animation without your two characters ever touching. You could be, 50 feet apart, or however they measure distance in Boletaria. And I don't know how they measure distance in Lordran either. But they just looked really sloppy and really ugly. But the thing of it was, you would rarely take damage from severe lag stabs. So getting a clean backstab in Demon's Souls was actually something of a feat in PvP, because there was a lot of, I don't think it was intentional compensation, but there was a lot of forgiveness to where if you got lag stabbed or you were rolling away and somebody stabbed where you were, you would often not take damage. So drastically different than Dark Souls, where backstabs seem to connect the vast majority of time. So not to harp on it too much, but I mean, are backstabs broken in Dark Souls PvP? Yup. I think so, at least. I think that's the general consensus. But if nothing else, it's normalized for everybody. So it's something that everybody has to deal with. And if nothing else, it gives you an extra little gauge to judge the quality of your opponent, like how blatantly they're abusing these lag stabs. Because, I mean, there's players out there that they know and they have mastered the lag stab, and they use it like it's just another weapon in the arsenal. I think that kind of sucks. I don't want to play that way, but it's part of the landscape. So if nothing else, I'll spend some more time here in the forest and try and get better to counteract that kind of thing. Funny little aside, I feel like I gave a pretty earnest effort to give this guy a chance to come back and fight, to try and get his attention. I don't know if he was just off eating dinner or if he fell asleep with his cat covenant ring on. Maybe he's taking a little cat nap with his cat covenant ring. But eventually, I just kicked him off the cliff. I feel pretty terrible about that. I try not to do stuff like that, but I mean, what can you do? Other people are waiting to invade. I'm sure I'm one of like 2 people currently in the forest that are hosting. So here comes another invader, and I ain't got time for this. Sorry, man. So in spending all this time thinking about backstabs too, I am fascinated with the why. I'm very curious around the motivation of it. And so I've been putting some thought into that, and I find it kind of interesting. I hope it's interesting for you, the listener. It's interesting to me. But I blame Dark Souls. I blame PvE for the rampant abuse of backstab fishing in PvP, because really, as a new player, when you are first getting the game and you're at your most impressionable stage, looking through, man, this guy's carving me up with his Drake sword, and you're at your most impressionable and you're kind of learning the game for the first time, and maybe you didn't play Demon Souls, so you're not that familiar with it, and you just have your initial weapons unupgraded, and you're hitting people for 60, 70, maybe 110 damage, and then you get somebody with a backstab and you one-shot them, and it takes 240, 330, things like that, then it is just ingrained that is how you play. And very quickly, I guess that guy tried to get just a little too fancy for his own good. But so like the first time you backstab and you see those numbers go up, you start looking for that all over the place. I mean, how many of us have gone into the Undead Burg and taken out that Black Knight to get the blue Tearstone ring, and all you did is pivot him and circle BS him? I mean, that is just kind of what the environment teaches you in terms of effectiveness. It is absolutely the most effective way to tear through some of these high-powered enemies. You go down, you take your master key and go down into the Havel's little locked-away tower, and what do? You just circle around them. Backstab. Ooh, little overkill with the barbecue there too, kiddo. Well done. Haha, get it? So yeah, I mean, you're a new player. You've got this new technique that is netting you a lot of damage, and it just kind of starts a chain reaction, because that starts to be your entire arsenal. You just burn through PvE looking for BS opportunities, bullshit opportunities. And instead, you're not learning your weapon. You're not learning... I don't know what happened there. A little phantom damage. Good times in the forest. So you're not really learning the spacing on your weapon. You're not learning how to kind of time your attacks or do anything like that. You're just falling into this trap where all you do is BS. I mean, it's something that I still do and have to actively fight against. I started a playthrough just the other day, shameless plug, and I was in the Burg and I went down and took on the aforementioned Black Knight to get my blue Tearstone ring, and I pivot BS'd him. I failed at it. I think it got me killed. And one of the things I was saying in the commentary was, you know what? If I had fought that guy straight up, I would have done better. But because I tried to do cheap, I don't know. And I think that's one of the reasons why bosses are often so difficult the first time you meet them too, is because all you've been doing is running around backstabbing, and you can't backstab a lot of the bosses, if any of the bosses. And so when it comes time to actually play, you got nothing. The only thing in your toolbox is a pivot BS. I absolutely blame the game for making the backstab so overpowered. In most situations, playing through PvE, in a lot of situations, man, I'm just having trouble with Drake swords today. This would be a good candidate to not include in the clips, but of course, transparency. But yeah, so I mean, here's a great opportunity right here to talk about this, because I'm getting 2v1'd. Best choice for me is to do a backstab, because I'm invincible when you do it. So not only are you dishing out huge amounts of damage, but you are immune to taking anything, and you get a moment of reprieve. You can kind of get your footing back under you, take a break, assess the situation, all while dealing out huge amounts of damage to your opponent. Same thing in PvE when you're dealing with throngs of enemies that are just ganging up on you. I mean, the best choice in most situations is a backstab in order to get a little bit of breathing room and just pick off your opponents. That is Dark Souls' fault for doing that. That is their fault From Software's fault for implementing that invincibility and making backstabs so overpowered. So in terms of new players or in terms of veteran players that just haven't bothered to get any better or haven't bothered to do anything more than progress to the pivot BS, it's absolutely natural to come out into PvP and do the same damn thing. Here I am doing it right here because I'm being 2v1 in a weird situation with a red and a forest hunter. Who knows? I guess they have the same common goal. But in that situation, the backstab was the best choice. And the backstab is the best choice in most situations. So I am actually really excited, segue, about some of the stuff I've been hearing in regards to Dark Souls 2 and backstabs. So everything I've read and everything I've seen regarding Dark Souls 2 and backstabs is that the entire mechanic has been kind of completely reimagined. Here's a nice little bit of revenge on that same Moonlight Greatsword, Crystal Ring Shield guy that was ganking me with the red just a second ago. But so in Dark Souls 2, I guess the backstabs are a much more active event. They are, when you land one, it engages a sequence in which it sounds like active input will be required. So you can kind of keep wailing on somebody's back. Maybe they'll have a mechanic to get out of it, to escape it. But the invincibility is gone as well. So while you are taking your attacks of opportunity on somebody's back, an enemy could potentially come up and just knock you out of it, or a ganker could come up and just knock you out of it. I think that is going to be a drastic departure and an exciting departure for the community and for a lot of the people that have been playing Dark Souls since its inception and are kind of backstab fatigued, and even for the new players like myself that are kind of backstab fatigued. Because, I mean, just think about that for a second, especially the invincibility being removed. Think about what that means in terms of the way that you play in PvE or PvP. No longer can you be ganged up on, hit one of the enemies with a backstab, and then just be impervious to everything else that is going on around you. Think about what that means for taking on the environment, you know, when the mobs come at you. Think about what that means if you find yourself in a ganking situation. You've got two players sort of gang mobbing you, and you can no longer pop one of them off with a backstab and just have a couple minutes of worry-free assessment of what best to do next. I think it is going to make, so for one, it is going to make gank spanks a lot more impressive. A lot more impressive. And I'm really excited to see some stuff from some of the elite players out there and their gank spanks that are to come, because I mean they're pretty gratifying anyways, and now there's this added element of difficulty and this added element of danger that I think is just going to be fucking stellar. So I'm pretty stoked for that. But then also think of the difficulty it adds in PvE. Like I was talking about the mobs or whatnot. If you find yourself down in, Ulasil Township with all the bloated heads coming at you and you're just sort of selectively backstabbing one at a time while there's 5 other ones around you just haplessly wailing away, gone are those days. But then also exciting, think about what it's going to mean for training new players. You know, people are no longer going to have this sort of easy mode technique that they can rely on. They're going to be trained proper, in my opinion, and hopefully we'll see a reduction in backstab fishing because there seems to be a lot more cost associated with it. It's a pretty radical reimagining, and I think it is pretty exciting. I'm pretty stoked to see what comes out of it. So now this guy, I'm going to close with these last couple of clips because it was so refreshing to find somebody in the forest that wasn't backstab fishing. And this guy had a really interesting playstyle. So he was aggressive as hell, coming out with his fast slashing sword, his pyro. I probably should have had some alarms going off because he's fast rolling and all of that stuff. Maybe that lag right there, we was just standing there. Maybe he was inputting some kind of controls. I don't know. Let's see. But I was just really impressed with his play style. He's quick. He's heavily armored, and he is vicious with that long sword, man. When you get in close to him, and those long R2s, those thrusting pokes, caught me quite a bit. So the problem was, I'll hit him here in a second. His health bar doesn't move. There it was right there. He caught me with the uppercut, the Black Knight sword uppercut. But I hit him for 348 with my great club. I was so excited to see him again because it hadn't registered at this point. But I hit him for 348 with my great club, two-handed. I've got 40 strength, and that is a plus 15 great club. And I hit him in his Havels. I think that's Havels. For 348? That math doesn't add up. There's another 348. And yet his health bar isn't moving. So I'm pretty discouraged, and it was a really crushing realization that this guy is probably not legit. And so much so afterwards, I sent him a message that was kind of like, oh man, your playstyle was so cool. Say it ain't so. Never heard back from him. But at this point, I think I'm done with the forest for a little bit. And I think I've said my piece on backstabs, so I think I'm going to close the episode. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think. Check out the playthrough I mentioned earlier, and we'll see you next time for episode 12. See ya.